Check, one.
Hello.
Check. I had a lot. Can you hear me? As you can see. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear the one about?
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for being here this week. This is so exciting.
The girls
Thank you.
and the boys.
Yeah. Awesome. So,
Yeah.
how often do you guys actually have the opportunity to be reunited like this at conventions?
Maybe a couple of times a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Yeah.
Do you guys ever like have the opportunity to do anything outside of these panels after the panels?
Well, Ken has a charity event that he GoFundMe that we participate.
No, it's I have a nonprofit where I give things back to the inner city youth, and I pay for kids books when they go to college. So occasionally, I'm supported by my nightmare friends. Every once in a while, we do a fundraiser to help them out. This year, I was able to pay for 13 kids to go to college.
Also, Ira is a big supporter, makes some events locally in Los Angeles for his.
Yeah, we did a one-night show called Night of Nightmares. We had Brooke East, Ken, Jennifer, myself, and my stunt double, William Perry.
Rodney's here.
And Rodney wasn't there. And we raised money for your charity, which was cool.
That's amazing. Where are you going to do more? So I kind of wanted to say, hi Ron, welcome.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You made it. Obviously, a lot of people would say that Dream Warriors is considered one of the best sequels in the Nightmare series. So what do you think it is that sets this film apart from the other films in the franchise?
I think it sets up is it the comedic strategy or the formula for the deaths? I think it added a ton of humor. Is that what we agreed on there? That it just hits a perfect tone, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 can build on it.
You go ahead, Rodney.
I think the reason that it's that the film still works so well today is the fact that everybody who watches that film finds a character in there that they relate to, that really speaks to them, that mirrors, maybe a couple of the characters mirror, your experience in life, and I also think the quality of the film has a lot to do with Wes coming back and being part of the writing team to create something. He kind of came back to save his baby, and did 9 years today.
9 years Wes passed away.
That Wes passed away, and I gotta say I'm real honored that I was able to. We don't realize these things when we're young, but I'm so honored today that I got a chance to actually work with the great one, and God, he even met my dad, which is talk about a horror movie.
May I add one thing? I also think that what made this movie is that we wasn't just actors in a film, we became friends. And we became friends before we did the movie. And when Heather came on, that was my first time seeing her when she walked on that set. And she has always, to this day, been the big sister to us. And Robert has been the big brother to us. So we are a family. We may not see each other every day, but when we see each other, it's like we just saw them yesterday.
About it, but Nightmare 1 and 2 is a much more suburbia, like the kids are kind of happy, at least their lives, they're being turned upside down by Freddy in their dreams, but their lives are pretty normal. But in this one, Wes really took a look at the state of things being a teenager and how tough it is, and how it can often have like a real dark side when you're a teenager in America, and I think that today especially resonates. It's really hard to be a young person, and that movie really respects that journey that teenagers have to go through with their parents and with people, you know, with all the different kind of problems, that anxiety or things that are you know, making kids like not as happy as they were, like Nancy and Glenn and Rod and Tina, like they're pretty happy teenagers until Freddy gets there. And with these kids, you get the feeling like they were having like a pretty tough road, and then Freddy gets there, you know. So I think people really relate to that.
And not to mention the fact that just a gang of fantastic actors, top to bottom.
Great.
Oh. Not to mention, just a gang of really fantastic actors. I know when I walked on set and I saw Cool Breeze from Apocalypse Now, I could not believe it. My mind was blown. Oh God, I'm like Craig Wasson. You know, I like he had just, you know, made Body Double with De Palma. You know, like just.
And Martin, who played.
And it was, you know, my first movie, and just to be surrounded by that level of talent, and then all of us, just, you know, basic, you know, unknowns, just there was not a bad actor on set. I've been in about 100 things, and I've seen a lot of bad actors.
The bad man after us, Freddy.
Bad actors.
Obviously, like the practical effects in the film are so incredible and still, you know, praised today. So, what was it like working with the effects?
Remember that Hall of Mirrors, how hard that was working on that day? That was crazy. Because they had made this hallway and all the mirrors were going to explode. And with candy glass, which is, you know, not real glass. But it required a lot of coordination, and I think there was a lot of mishaps.
Yeah, and also the one thing they didn't, you know, now they don't have to worry about it with green screen and everything, but they didn't think about the fact that they were building a hall of mirrors and they had to have a camera in there somewhere.
Right.
They really had to do some last minute geography. I was terrible in school, so geometry. But you know, the geography of the mirrors was very different.
Well, the big giant Freddy worm, I guess we call it. To me, I never thought that was going to look very good because, I don't know, it just had a weird look to it. I don't know if you guys were working that day, but it was very big and it was very rubbery looking, and it was very, the face on it didn't look like Freddy.
Chuck came to the set and he goes, "Oh, it looks like a penis." You can't do that, and they had to do something to tone it down.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of how I felt. But that
Too many veins.
Yeah, it worked great. And the scene where I fall into the chair, that was a practical effect, but it was a camera trick. So we had me just fall into just onto a mat, and then they had me fall onto the chair, and then they married them together to make it look like I fell into the chair and disappeared. So that was a really good effect, and it was like one of the first times that visual effects company ever did a movie, and they were really nervous. I remember almost all day long to shoot that. Today they would have just done that in about an hour. They would have done that, but they had to line the cameras up, and it was very complicated at the time. But they all hold up, and they all look really good.
Awesome. So, if it's okay with y'all, we do have a microphone in the audience for whatever questions y'all may have. I see. Okay, you're up first, my friend. So convenient. I love it. What's your name?
I'm Michael.
Michael?
We met all today. So, one of the things that's really cool about this convention is you have two groups of movies that have a multitude of characters in it that have to work. Dream Warriors, and you have the Losers Club from It. And it's just amazing to me that how they hit it right. You know, to have as many important characters in a movie like you folks, and the same with them, and how much, what I'd like for you to talk about is how easy or difficult it is to build that connection during, before, and after the movie to make sure that it works.
I find acting to be very spiritual. And my father's a pharmacist, and when I was born, I had something wrong with my blood, so I had to have shots in my ass. That the serum was so thick, I couldn't walk. And then when I got to be about 8 or 9 years old, I just, the doctors and the nurse, and my grandmother and my mother tried to hold me down to get that shot. And I won, they couldn't tie me down, and then I'm like, oh, we don't have to give her any more shots. So for me, when you come at me with a bunch of needles, it just made the whole beginning of my life make sense. Like it kind of purged that fear out of me. And I'll speak for Penelope, where her head goes through the television set, but her father was a huge soap opera star. And so for her to be welcomed into prime time was another, culmination from the parents with the Nightmare on Elm Street, parental.
Yeah, it's such a great, it's a very spiritual connection.
Yeah.
If I'm understanding you correctly, also you're talking about the bond with us as well.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that often when I've been in parts of ensembles like that. And I really realized too, we don't really, when it's really gelled, it hasn't been like, oh, we gotta make this happen. I think a lot of that has to do with the filmmakers themselves. I think you've said this before, Ken, where they picked the people they saw that they knew would connect. So we were picked because they really felt in a situation like Dream Warriors, other things I've been part of, where I'm the guy, he's the guy, she's the girl. And then without intention, it just happens because you're all in, you're doing it, and you just connect. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but we were fortunate enough, like Rodney said, you just kind of like really vibe off of each other, and you're doing your best as actors, and it just kind of blends into outside of the set. We've developed friendships, and I think it has a lot to do with the collaboration, and the filmmakers see it, and it just kind of happens organically.
If I could just, I just want to add one more thing is, people don't realize that when you make a horror movie, it's so much different than other movies because you really are vulnerable when you're acting scared or you're in these positions where you're doing things like screaming and running and acting in a way that out there on the street it would look like total foolishness. But to be, on a set, you're required to just invest so much, and you have to trust your fellow actors so much not to make you feel stupid or not to make you feel like you're overacting, and you've never done this kind of thing before, and you just feel so, I always feel so exposed, and then you trust these people so much not to make you feel even more exposed, but to make you feel safe, and then I think that just builds a lot of respect, and it's kind of like in high school when, you just have those great friendships that will last forever because you've been so vulnerable together, and I definitely feel that way with these folks.
Yeah, it creates a bond.
I was going to say the same exact.
And none of us had an ego. None of us in that.
Robert did. Robert did.
I don't think Robert had an ego, and if he did, he earned it. But I don't think any of us had an ego. I think us as Dream Warriors, we came in there, and once we got to know each other, you see, in order to set something up, you have to be able to say a line to set it up for the person who's saying the line to look good. So we didn't have an ego. We knew how to set up the line. We knew what to say to make the person we were talking to work. And that was very important. And that had to do with that we got to know each other and we got to care for each other. So we wasn't, I'm going to repeat it, we wasn't just actors. We was friends that was coming together.
All right, what you do?
Yeah.
Stop saying you won't and get out there and do it.
From a practical sense, I would say find your local, college courses, film courses, and I don't know if there's a film production in South Carolina. Be an extra. I would just start getting extra work as soon as you can. Do it for free. Do it for $20 a day. Do whatever you can, or if you got friends who are making a film, ask if you can do the lights. Be a part of it. Be on the set. But extra work was a real boom for me. The first real extra job I got was in an ABC After School special called "Have You Tried Talking to Patty?" And Heather
was an extra job in The Outsider, so
and
that's
Heather
a great
was
way
the
to
star.
get experience.
Yeah, and I watched Heather and the other actors, and no offense, Heather, but I went, I can do that.
And also just, as an actor, I always, a lot of people just like looking at their screens all day at other people performing and not really being themselves. And you really have to know all about yourself. You have to know how to access happiness, fear, sadness, all the emotions. You have to be able to call them up like that. You have to experience your life in real time with real people. I think a lot of people's relationship with their TVs and their screens are preventing them from actually having relationships where you can get a lot of experience, with feelings and like doing crazy things and knowing what your boundaries are. So it means like actually engaging with the world in a way that when it comes time to be an actor, you have something to call upon, like, oh, I've done something like that, or I've been with people like that, or experiencing your own life is so important.
And definitely be an extra in a movie. Have you guys all done extra work? So my first job was an extra in a music video called Be Cruel to Your School with Bobcat Goldthwait. Twisted Sister video, Alice Cooper, and Luke Perry. He was an extra. Do you guys, anybody else do any extra?
Like a Twisted Sister for real?
Swear to God.
He's like my cousin-in-law now, the guy from Twisted Sister.
No way. See, this is the greatest thing. I've learned so much about it.
Also, some friends of mine were telling me today, how far is Savannah from here? 2 hours. So there's a school there. And it's really cool to get involved with the up-and-coming filmmakers who are doing other, in the collaboration. They're the filmmakers. They need actors to be in their student films and those projects. And so everybody's learning together. So it's a great place also to, get your chops up, get in touch with yourself in the deep spiritual aspects of acting, life, and studying character and nuances, relationship and things like that. But also that's a great way where you're really not, depending on an audition to get into, they film like Stranger Things. And my son just did a project in Georgia too.
A very good project.
That way, if you reach out to the students, they need actors, so you can kind of experiment, get used to it.
And also be part of a scene, like we're all spoiled coming from LA because everyone out there is trying to do something in the industry. So you're constantly surrounded by it, and try and surround yourself with people who have the same sort of dreams, that you guys encourage each other and call each other up on their bullshit once in a while too.
Great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. And I'm from Brazil. They love your franchise, and you guys should go.
Sign us up.
Yes, my question is for all of you. Did anybody ever have a dream or a nightmare of Freddy?
horny dream, but a little bit predictable. We were all on a ship. The ship is going through really stormy seas, and people are getting thrown to this side of the ship, and then that side of the ship. And I remember I see Patricia Arquette about to like fly off the ship, and I'm like running to the catch her by the leg, and I pull her back onto the ship, and everyone was like, I just had this sense like we were all gonna fall off this ship. And I would have this dream almost like a couple times a week, and I felt very protective of all of these people, and I wanted to make sure, that everyone was having, safety was a thing that I often worried about. I felt like some of the sets weren't particularly safe, and I didn't feel like people were paying enough attention to these kids, like making sure that, though I was only a few years older, but they didn't seem like I needed to protect them, and so that was I had that dream 6 or 7 times.
I only had one dream, and Robert in England and I robbed a bank.
Did you get away with it?
We got the money. That was after our force call.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. What's your name?
Brooke. Mine is targeted to one specific kill, but then I would like to hear about all of your kills. But the marionette scene, it's just the most interesting I've seen in horror movies. I'm just curious to how that was the shooting of the marionette type of kill was and everything else.
It was the cool thing about, like you were saying, that the practical effects of everything and added to the how intense and scary it was. It was also, it was so low budget that they had an IV stand in the hospital that we were filming in. I don't know how that came to be, because you would think that that would have been planned out, of how the veins were going to be how I was going to be pulled. It was a long time ago, so forgive me, but that, my recollection of that was there was a guy off camera, next to the camera, walking backwards as I went forwards, and they were tied to the IV stand, so we had to kind of choreograph and make it work and make it stay taut and pull it off to make it look like I was being pulled and in pain. And, that's how we did it. Yeah, it worked. So it's really thrilling to me to have through the years, have people be so affected by it, believe it, that, kind of feel like really cool that we pulled something off. And then to hear that overall the deaths in horror films, that it's like known, I think it's in the top 10 I hear. But yeah, so that's how we did that, and we had to make sure it stayed taut. And the other thing was one of you through the years at one of these events shared to me that, and I never really thought about it, but there's just like an open frame. You just see the floor, and then you just see like a blood drop on the floor, and then you see my foot come into frame with the veins. And something about the simplicity of that and the practicalness of that effect. It wasn't a special effect. It was so scary and eerie, But yeah, so that's how we did that.
And I want to add, whenever you see a cosplayer who's recreating, I always respect their attempts so much, because it's such a hard character to bring to life, especially with the veins. I've seen so many really creative ideas that people bring that to life at the show.
Cool. It's really cool.
It still makes me
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. My death.
So I have a question, but just quickly I wanted to mention I've done some of the SCAD seminars and spoken with some of the students there that watch the kids in between classes. A lot of them do short student films, and they'll all help each other out, and some of these do end up at festivals and stuff, so it really is a good environment to get yourself going.
Do you go there?
I'm doing this seminars. I'm hoping I can get in. We're actually planning on doing applications soon.
So you guys can connect.
Yeah, very cool. I just wanted to mention that though, because of the short films and stuff. But
Yeah.
my question is, out of all of the kills in the movie besides your own, what would be your favorite, both scary and practical effect wise?
Mine I can just finish with Bradley's because when Freddy comes up from the bed, that's the perfect, under the bed monster that really set the stage for me to be mostly scared of his death.
Yeah, I mean, Bradley's is probably, it's just, Bradley and Terrence, and Penelope, like, they're all three so great. I don't think I could pick another one that I'd like the most, but of course, I think symbolically, Welcome to Prime Time, bitch, is like the best movie. So, that might be my next favorite.
Does anybody else have another kill that they'd like to be part of?
Favorite kill other than your own?
Other than your own?
Let's get hot.
Bradley, but also Jennifer. When you said, it's rush. That was just kind of scary for me because I knew someone who took an overdose. I didn't like that scene. I hated that scene. And I thought it was done very well. So that was kind of scary. And also, Welcome to Prime Time, bitch, was good, but it was funny to me.
That's funny, yeah.
Definitely Bradley's for mine. I just think it was so cool to watch him go through what he did, and then at lunchtime we had spaghetti for lunch. Together.
I just thought he was going for a stroll, man. So.
I just wish he'd gone over and played D&D with us. Then nothing of this sort would have happened.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who did Freddy scare the most? Of us?
Yes. You're asking who is the most
Ken.
Is he the toughest guy?
Yeah, he was probably the most.
I think he scared me because he got me sitting in a room singing, I ain't gonna sleep no more, ain't gonna sleep no more. I'm not gonna sing this song, ain't gonna sleep no more. So I was scared. I think at that point, I was at my last wits.
Yeah, and then in the later scenes in the film, I think a lot of it is keyed off of your level of anxiety too. You kind of towards the end, I feel like you kind of steered that ship. I know for myself, he gave me a lot to play off of.
But thank you. You just wasn't talking.
But he had a lot to say.
I make up for it now.
Thank you. You can move the mic back up if you don't mind. Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Hold it.
Very cool. Hey, how you guys doing?
Great, how are you?
Hey, I just want to thank you guys for being here. I want to think that in 1989, after mowing grass for about 2 weeks, I was able to afford $10 or get $10 and go up to a Blockbuster video, and I was able to, my first movie I ever got was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and I watched it over and over and over. Back then, it's like, we don't have the media that we have nowadays, so to me that was a lot, but I feel like from watching that so many times, I have a lot of each of your characters, have been developed, into the person that I am today. Now, as great as a movie as that was, all right, I'm gonna say part 4, Kid he should have kept going, because I was rooting for you. All right?
It's not so in the original script, you know?
But, you know, the point I'm getting is, as much as I love all of you, I'm kind of disappointed in all of you. For making me listen to Dawkins and liking it.
How's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Extremely excited. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. My name's Gregg. This is my wife, Carla, over here. And
Hi, Carla.
when I first met her a couple of years ago, she had never watched a horror movie and was just terrified of even the thought, I feel like, of watching a horror movie. And the first movie that I showed her was Dream Warriors, because I feel like that's like the perfect entry point for someone that hasn't seen horror. It's funny, really creative, crazy effects. And it's kind of crazy, you know, that I feel full circle now that I'm standing here in front of you guys, you know, for the first movie that me and her really watched together. I just have two kind of random questions. One for Heather. What was it like, or could you speak on working with John Saxon? You know, he's just a legend for his giant career that spanned, I don't know how many decades, but he's incredible, and I just was wondering if, you know, you had some words about him. And then for Ken, what was it like to survive Nightmare 3 and come back for the starring role of Nightmare 4?
You want to start, Ken, or you want me to start? Okay, I'll start. So, when I first met John Saxon, I have to say I was, 18. I was very scared of him. He was really intimidating, and I knew, he was a star. All the older women in my life, aunts and women that I knew who are the generation before me, were in love with him. And so, I had heard a lot about what a star he was. But yet I didn't really warm up to him during Nightmare 1 because he was always so stern and he was always so tough. But then in Nightmare 3, we spent a whole day together doing that scene at the bar. And we really just started laughing. He told me about his family, and we just had, he is full of stories, just great stories from old-time Hollywood that I always was primed with. And tell me about when you worked with Burt Lancaster, all the greats. He worked with everyone. He was in the studio system, so he was in all sorts of westerns. He played Mexican men who, wrangled horses, and then he played, he just played so many different parts. But he was like a dad, Italian family, loved his kids. He was just a really warm guy. And then Nightmare, Wes Craven's new Nightmare, he was like a total ally. We were buddies on that, and he was so gentle, and I really saw what a kind and generous person he was. And we became really good friends by the time, I was older, and he was, he was more of an uncle figure to me at that time. So we got together a lot after that, and I was happy to, continue our relationship until he died.
Okay, Nightmare Part 3 and 4 was such a groundbreaking movie. I think it had a lot of history, had the old school in there, but being African American man, I have to give homage to Wes because I made history being the first African American to survive. Coming back to Part 4, which I often say they just forgot to kill my ass. But, when you first got the script, you just start seeing when you die. And so I went to the end and I just knew that was a miswritten script. But it felt great because I think I represented something to a lot of people. And I did not know at the time what was being represented. Only now that I know that it was something that Wes Craven wrote that made a difference because from my understanding, the original Kid Cadet was not a black guy. And he decided to make me a black guy. And so, and to come back for it, it was just so great. To this day, I did not know what had been put before me. And I'm grateful for that. I always will be grateful for that. I will be grateful for you who helped me be who I am.
Anyway, we have about 5 minutes left. We got 3 questions. Let's try to get through all of them. Hey, what's your name?
My name is Jill. I was 18 when the movie came out, and I worked box office at AMC Theaters in Sarasota, Florida. And the weekend it opened, it was huge. That's all we did was go to the movies back then. And of course, the staff got to see the movie first. And I fell in love with Taryn immediately. I loved her. I rooted for her. And every showing that I worked, I was full-time. I would go in just in time to see her say, in my dreams, I'm beautiful and bad. And it just inspired me. But then I was mad because she died. Do you ever, for the people who die, their characters died in the movie, do you ever feel like, man, they should have cut you some slack and not done that and let them live 4, at least a 4, maybe 5?
Have you ever seen a horror movie before?
I was just like, why Taryn? She could have on Freddy Krueger. Why?
Thank you for rooting for me. I do think we were getting to a point where we wanted somebody to win, and it would have been nice if it was her. Thank God it wasn't her, right? So we could have more Freddy.
More Freddy. Freddy is more beloved because he was able to kill so many great kids, right? You know?
Did you ever contemplate if the characters were killed off differently, like others survived and others were
Never thought of that.
passed away?
You know, to bring it all the questions full circle as far as like, I could never be in Halloween, that movie, with that character, Mike Myers. If somebody got on me like that, I would just faint. I just couldn't. But as long as Freddy was talking, I could find a workaround. So I wasn't scared, and then I was surprised, but I was never frightened of him. So I forgot what I was saying.
I know that I could have beat Freddy. I just shouldn't have gone after him. I should have just stayed where I was and just zapped him to hell. But no, I got an ego, Ken. Went after him.
Well, that's what you go gotcha.
That is true. It's kind of crazy if you think, like, I think I worked 24 days on the movie, and it's kind of wild how those 24 days have transcended into all over the world, all these different conventions with my friends, which is amazing. It's pretty cool.
Great, we got a rapid fire through these final 2. What's your name?
My name is Joe, and earlier I went up to Rodney and made the idiotic mistake of having meeting the celebrity brain, saying, "Oh, was that your death scene in Dream Warriors?" And he reminded me he was in number 4. When it comes to Rodney and Ken, you two specifically surviving number 3, was that the intent the whole time during the shooting of the movie? And how much jealousy did that cause amongst the other cast members? Thanks.
I don't know, they was dead.
One thing I'll back up, I didn't get to really be a dream warrior because, you know, I was killed first, and I never got a power.
You know what a superpower would have been.
But you're still powerful.
Hey, I'm Amy. Thanks for being here. I just love a blooper reel. And so I'd just like to know maybe if y'all could tell me your funniest thing that's ever happened set, or you don't have to say names in the NDA, but just some like things that stick out that are just real hilarious.
I have a really good one.
Okay.
I was in Screamers with Peter Weller, and it was really freezing, and we were in Canada, and you know, wife beater t-shirts and stuff like that. So I'm dressing, and I put on my wife beater backwards, so my tits were out. And like, everybody started laughing. I was like, cut.
I've got a good one. I was I did 5 episodes of I think it was the last season of Melrose Place, and I got Heather Locklear's husband strung out on drugs, and at the end of my whole journey on the show, I was her and I were arguing in her office, and this scene called for her to you know, I said, oh, I know you're missing all the good times, rough sex, and calls for her to slap me, and I say, oh, foreplay. And so we're getting ready to shoot the scene, and we call action, and, you know, I told her, just, yeah, go ahead, you can hit me, you know, go ahead, pop me one, and action, and she hit me so fucking hard. And they actually use the tape, and it looks like a blooper reel, because you see me pop out of character for a second. I just kind of shook it off and used it, and when they cut on the whole crew was behind the wall, and as soon as they cut on it, the entire soundstage started laughing, because you could hear it clear down the block.
You were talking about acting and learning to act when you know, if you do film acting. If there's a scene between Jennifer and I, and they're filming me, she would be off camera. If they were like getting a close-up shot of me, and she'd be saying her lines and vice versa. And so when I first started, you know, what you know is I say my lines like it's written in the script. I didn't realize that if they're not using what I'm saying, I can kind of say other things, improv or whatever, to pull a reaction out of her. I didn't really know that and I was working on Lonesome Dove, which is a famous Western, and I'm working with Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm, you know, there on the set, and they're doing the scene. Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall, and Tommy Lee Jones is doing off camera, and whatever the dialogue was, he was trying to get some type of reaction out of Robert Duvall, where it was like a humorous line, or he, you know, says something sarcastic to him. And they're doing the scene, and all of a sudden Tommy Lee Jones just turns around and he pulls his pants down. And Robert Duvall was just like the reaction. Robert, he didn't expect him to do it. And they go, cut. And that's what they left in the thing. And I realized, wow, you can do stuff like that off camera to get reactions out of people. But but I mean, I was shocked. I was like, Robert, Tommy Lee Jones just pulled his pants down. But it was great. It was something that always stuck out at me. You know, I don't know if anybody got it in that film.
Anyways, I have one, and it was a brief one on Father the Bride. I got to do a short scene with Steve Martin, and he was my favorite comedian growing up. Saturday Night Live, well, excuse me, the whole thing. And my first line is, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? So I think I'm going to be funny. And comedy is timing, I think. So 6 o'clock in the morning, we're running through rehearsal, and I'm meeting Steve for the first time, and he comes in, and he fakes ripping open the things, and I yell out, excuse me! Now, I got more laughs tonight than I did that night, because it was back to one, and I just said it the right way from then on.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here this week.